Hello and welcome along to Seagulls Player. Today we're at the American Express Elite Football Performance Centre where I'm joined by ex-Brighton Hove Albion defender and captain Guy Butters. Hello.
Hello there.
Thank you very much for joining me today. So before we get on to talking about Brighton Hove Albion, I thought we'd talk about your career as a whole. You played for some great clubs over the years, Tottenham, Gillingham, Portsmouth, and obviously Brighton Hove Albion. Going back to Tottenham, I hear that you used to be in the same squad as Paul Gascoigne. What was that like? Any good stories you can tell us?
Yeah, I've got plenty. I'm not sure you can probably put them on film, most of them, but yeah, a couple that stick out in my mind. I remember going on a Norwegian trip to visit Erik Thorsved, who works out there now as a pundit. He had a This Is Your Life special edition, and they wanted to get a couple of ex-Tottenham players over, so I remember going, and who turns up at the airport but Gaza. So we've gone over there, and while we're waiting for the studio to be set up, he's found the wardrobe department, and he come out dressed as a cowboy. I mean, he's just like floppy hat on and everything. But then when we went out onto the studio and a few stories got told, I remember Erik sort of saying things that he used to get terrorised by Gaza at the time when he first signed. And I think Gaza at one stage found out that he had a fear of birds, so he kidnapped an ostrich from a local zoo, went down to the training ground, got everyone out of the changing rooms and basically shoved the ostrich in with Erik, locked the door, and all you could hear was screaming.
What was it like playing with such, he's an iconic figure in the football world. What was it like playing alongside him?
He's probably the best player I've ever played with, and probably the best player I've seen. Even in training, some of the stuff that he used to do was just unbelievable. I remember when I first came into the side, all through the youth team and through the reserves, if someone had someone really marking them closely, you tended not to give him the ball. But if you'd done that with Gaza, he'd let you know that he wanted the ball into him. He didn't really care how many people were around him. And sometimes you used to think, well, go on in, I'll give you the ball, and if you lose it, it's down to you. But I don't think I ever see him lose a ball with even though he was tightly marked, he had such good upper body strength, and he was so good on the ball that no one could get near him. And I still think, and I still say it to people as well, that I don't think that anyone's come near him even now. Jack Wilshere the other day scored a couple of good goals, but even now, I think if Gaza was fit and still at the right age, he'd walk into the England side. How
do you feel football has changed since when you started out to where we are now?
Well, obviously, apart from the obvious one, the money, I think it's more, they've become more athletic now. You've got to be an athlete. When I first started, it was, everyone used to say that, sort of before a game, get as much carbohydrate in charge of your body as you can. Then that got frowned on, then it was more protein side of things. But I always remember in them days as well, it was more about team bonding. After a game, you'd all go in the players' lounge. It was a free bar at Tottenham at the time, so you go in the players' lounge after a game, without having anything to eat, maybe the odd sandwich, and then just, sink a couple of pints and chatting about the game as you did, and then you go home and probably go out that night as well. That was just the culture in them days. And like I said, it wasn't a bad thing because it built really good team spirit amongst clubs. We still had that even when I first come to Brighton. In them days we could still get away with it. We had a rule when I think it was Charlie Oatway or someone. We invented a rule that to get a bit more team spirit and a bit more camaraderie, we had after a game, anyone who wasn't in the players' lounge having a drink, not necessarily alcoholic drink, but if anyone that didn't go in the bar and socialise with the others after a game got fined. And you found that over the season you end up, I was sort of 36, 37, 38 towards the end of my career, and I'm in the players' lounge talking to 18, 19, 20-year-old kids, which was good because, obviously normally I wouldn't associate myself with them or have the same things in common. But because we were forced to do it after a game, you found that you had similar sort of interests one way or another.
We've been asking fans to tweet in questions throughout the week for you. Dale Stevens FP and Sayers 3011 asks, what is your best moment of your whole career?
I think being made a pro. I think it's the first thing. From what I can remember, I always had a ball at my feet from a little kid. I was the typical little kid that, slept with a ball under his bed with a football kit on, etc. I remember going to a family funeral, and getting a ball out and playing and kicking the ball up against the wall from a young age. But that was the way I was brought up. So to actually be told that you're being made a pro was just something that you couldn't comprehend. And I always remember it because in the youth team at Spurs, we were having a little five-side competition while we were waiting to be pulled one by the manager, the youth team manager at the time, Keith Blunt, and he'd say, yes, you've got a pro contract, or you hadn't. Very fortunate, yep, you've got a pro contract, you've got to go this afternoon back down to the ground to see Terry Venables, first team manager at the time. And I always remember going back to the ground and knocking on the door and sort of come in and then walking in, seeing like it's Terry Venables, just come back from Barcelona. and walking up to him, and I remember it now, I gave the worst, limpest handshake you've ever seen. And he literally said, right, what was that? Get out. He said, go back out the door, come back in again, and do it again with a proper centre-half handshake. And I always remember going back outside like a little scorned little school kid, knocking on the door again, and he made me wait. He had to knock again. And then he come in, and I come in, and I must have gripped his hand off because he went, that's better. Sat down and said, well done, you've earned a 2-year contract. You know, I'm looking to get you as near as the first team in the first season of your pro contract next year. I'll be looking to get you as near the first team as possible. And also he did say, and I'm not going to mention a name, but he did mention 1 or 2 players that had got into the England under-21s team at the time. And he said that I was probably on a par, if not better than them, even at 17, 18. So that gives you a massive lift. Whether he meant it or not, or he was just trying to give me a bit of confidence, I don't know. But I found myself getting in the first team that very first season. 2002,
you left Gillingham, you came to the Albion. Cadster14 asks, what was it like playing for Brighton?
I think it's been well documented. When I first came, I weren't at my most fittest. I missed the pre-season at Gillingham through an injury, and so I was always playing catch-up. So I was really sluggish when I first came, and it's a fine line really, where you want to do a lot more fitness work to get fitter, but you can't because you've got games coming up. Do you know what I mean? So you have to sort of be patient and try and get some fitness. And unfortunately for me, you know, time ran out and I found myself out of the team. Went on loan to Barnet, which done me the world of good, and come back the following season and then fired on from there. But when I first signed, yeah, I mean, Martin Inchwood signed me. I knew Martin from when he was reserve team manager at Portsmouth, and I've always had a good relationship with him. And it was a club that I saw was on the up because, you know, previous 2 seasons I think they'd won championships, so there was a club that were on the way up, and it was a good chance for me to progress.
Talking about managers, so Martin Hinchwood signed you. You also played under some, you know, arguably some of the best Brighton Hove Albion managers we've ever had. You know, Steve Coppell, Mark McGhee. What was it like playing under them? They must have given you a lot of confidence in your career.
Yeah, Mark McGhee was brilliant for me. I mean, when he first came into the club, he sort of pulled me to one side because I think he'd said he was probably I played against his teams when he was at Millwall and previous clubs, so he sort of remembered who I was, and he knew I was an older pro, so he said, look, I'm going to probably bounce a few ideas off of you if you don't mind. And I said, yeah, no problem. I said, on the flip side, I said, look, I'm coming up to a certain age, I think I was about 35, is there any chance that you can, any tips you think, you know, I'm obviously always been a heavy player anyway, is there anything you can think of extending my career? And he said, well, he used to have a fella at Millwall, it was a similar sort of build, and he said he got this programme from a weightlifter, funny enough, to do this programme to sort of burn fat and, you know, get yourself a bit more slimmer and toned up and a bit more sharper. And he said, then and we go for it, and I'll see you tomorrow in the gym at the training ground. So I turned up next day about 8 o'clock, I think it was, and he got me on a treadmill, and he literally put me on just get up to a jog. He said, put it down a notch, and then so basically you're power walking, and you're literally really power walking, going really fast, and your arms are swinging. He said, and do that for an hour, and I'll come back, see how you get on. And you know, you think, hold on a minute, I'm doing this for 5 minutes, and I thought, this can't be right, because I'm struggling here. I've got to do this for an hour, and I'm looking around thinking Jeremy Beadle's going to jump out any minute. And but managed to get through it. I mean, it was hard work, so I'm sweating, everything. He's come in, and then we've done some certain weight things, and he said to me, right, basically for 3 days you do that for 3 days. It was a 3 week, so you do that for 3 days, and then you do a similar sort of thing to the Atkins, but not quite. He said, and on the Thursday and the Friday before a game, obviously you've got to get some energy in, eat and drink what you want. And I've done that for that season, and I got Player of the Year. So, and I lost X amount of weight, but not only the weight, it was just felt fitter and sharper. But bearing in mind, I would do this in the gym and then go and join in with the lads as well. And if it was a Monday or Tuesday when they were doing a running session, I'd have to do the running as well. But and what I liked about Mark, he'd done it in a way where he would let me get away with certain things in the full training just to give me that morale boost. Like we used to do sprints, and he used to say to me, try and find who the quickest in the club was. So we basically have like 4 different groups doing these sprints. If you won one group, you go up to the next. If you lost, you go down one. You know, so eventually after 4 or 5 of these sprints, the quickest would be in the top division, and then it would likewise, and the slowest would be in the bottom division. And he said to me, before I say go, I will point my finger out like that No one else would know it, but when I'd go like that and I'll say go, so you've got a split second for a head start, and no one knew it. And I used to win so many races, and people were going, they couldn't believe it. You know, they thought it was, you know, and I used to be in the top group, and everyone's going, how can he be in the top group? And I'd say, you know, there's no starting gun on the pitch, and I just used to wind them up saying chronic. But that was man management was spot on there, because it literally, like I said, with the hard work that I used to do in the gym before training, he knew that he had to give me a little bit of a morale boost as well in proper training. Otherwise, I'll end up being, you know, I'll probably get a bit depressed and a bit down because it was really hard work. But yeah, brilliant. He was so good for me. And for someone to actually take the time to do it with me as well, he started a little, I think it was probably because he wanted to go on holiday and have a nice body, but I think he started as well alongside me. So not only was I doing it in the morning, he'd be one side of me. Dean White tried it for a little bit, but then he lasted about 2 weeks. And then he binned it off. But it obviously couldn't work when we had a midweek game, because, you know, you couldn't do it on a Monday and expect to play on Tuesday night. But when we had a free week, for the first 3 days of the week, I'd be in the gym, banging out at least on a treadmill. But yeah, it worked. It worked for me. Like I said, I got Player of the Year that season, and yeah, it was brilliant.
Okay, so Mark McGhee, very influential in your career. What about Steve Coppell?
Yeah, I mean, when Steve first came, I think we'd had a couple of results, bad results. I think culminating in, we lost to Sheffield United, I think it was. We were 2-0 up. Me and Fergus played centre halves. We were doing really well, and then for some reason, I think they were just going for it. Sheffield United, they brought on Carlos Saba and some other forward. In the end, they were playing 5 up front. Unfortunately, we lost 4-2, and that was the very first game I think he saw, and he obviously then didn't fancy me and Fergus for some reason. And then I think the very next game was the Palace game they played. And people still say to me how bad I played in that game. I didn't even play. Me and Fergus were dropped. We were left out completely. And then I always remember, we didn't even travel with the squad. And I always remember watching it on Soccer Saturday, and they were 5-0 down. And I'm thinking, well...
That's your fault then.
But you do think at the time, you think, you know, well, hopefully, not all managers know what they're doing, in a way. That's the way that you think when you've been first left out. It hasn't worked. You know, you lost 5-0 against your biggest rivals. But yeah, I still get people come up to me and saying how bad I played in that game. I wasn't even there. But you know, you accept it as a pro. You think to yourself, okay, it's one person's opinion of you. You know, you just literally got to get your head down and get on with it. And like I said, then I went on loan to Barnet, played quite well there under Martin Allen, who I was a teammate with at Portsmouth. He obviously knew that I was playing for reserves and that, and it's not the same. Went down there, really enjoyed it at Barnet, and came back in the following pre-season, really, really fired up to give it a really good go, because, like I say, I hadn't had a great start at Brighton, and I wanted to prove to people, because you do know in yourself how, you know, you're not a bad player overnight, but you just know that you need to get fit first. Give yourself that chance.
Nathan Wesley asks, who was the toughest opponent you played against whilst wearing an Albion shirt?
Albion shirt? Was quite lucky really, because we played quite a few cup games against West Ham and league games against West Ham as well, and against big clubs. Probably, I mean, I can't really think of any specific players, but the ones that normally I struggled against were the smaller, sort of sharper players. I remember Tevez and a few others in the West Ham game, the FA Cup game, not the league game. That was quite a difficult game. We were 3-0 down. I think as well, probably one game that sticks out was Preston away. I think their 2 forwards up front gave someone around. He got sent off, I think, quite early. So we were down to 10 men for most of the game. I think we lost 3-0. And yeah, that stuck out, because the 2 forwards at the time, I think one might have been Nugent, although I have to double check. Their movement was brilliant, and we couldn't cope with them. But like I say, we've done 10 men at a time.
Best players you've played with and against? Obviously,
Gazza. I mean, I was so lucky when I was at Spurs. Gaffer upstairs, you know, people like that alongside me. Gary Mabbott, Terry Fenwick, Chris Waddle and Paul Gascoigne. I've got a video at home of that season that I played, and as the season went on, they're getting goals. Every single goal they score from game to game is just getting better and better, and it was ridiculous in the end, because you just start laughing at the video, because, you know, 30-yarders going in off the bar, and it's just mad. And then the following season, who turns up? Gary Lineker comes along. You know, you're like, I'm in the change room with these people. It's just surreal. I always remember that on my debut. I was sort of a young lad. I'd only trained with the first team probably for a couple of weeks, a week and a half, and then I found myself a rumour going around that one of the centre halves might be injured. You might be playing. You might be starting. So sort of a bloke from the staff rang up and said, "Oh, you know, John Fashanu tomorrow, do you fancy playing against him?" And I just said, "Look, I prefer to play against the taller fella. rather than someone who's small and short and quite quick. So next day, my dad knocked on the bedroom door and went, "What have you said here?" Chucked the paper at me, and in there it's got, "Oh, I can't wait to have a go at Fash and all this stuff, Fash the Bash." And I'm like, "Oh, I never said it." So I got down to the ground, and it felt really weird because I didn't feel comfortable with these, being with like the likes of Gary Mabbott, etc. So I was sort of hung outside the changing room for some reason. I didn't really want to go in there and get involved in the banter because I was only a young kid. And normally it's aimed at the young kid, so I thought I'd stay out of the way. So I'm in the tunnel, outside the changing rooms, and all of a sudden I heard a door go from around the corner. It's the Wimbledon players. So what do I do? So I've done what any big centre half would do, and I run into the kit man's room, get out of the way, and I sort of hid and was watching through the crack of the door and waited for them all to go. And when they've gone, I thought coast is clear, so I've come out, stood outside the changing room again. And all of a sudden, Bobby Gould, the manager's walked round the corner, and he's hello to the stewards and that, and the tea lady, afternoon, and he's gone, "Big man, afternoon." I've gone, "Oh yeah." He's gone, "Watch your teeth," like that, and I just, like a ghost, I was sort of flabbergasted. And I've got in the changing room, and I've said to one of the other subs, Paul Moran, who's probably a year older than me, I've told him what happened, and he all of a sudden he just blabbed it out in the changing room. Everyone started laughing at me, and yeah, so they couldn't believe it. But I was subbed that game, didn't actually start, but I come on a sub for Gary Stevens when the Vinnie Jones tackle. I actually come on a sub 5 minutes before half time, I think it was, and obviously because it was a serious injury, it was about 10-15 minutes worth of warming up before I come on, so that made me even more nervous. And then the 5 minutes I literally had one challenge against Fashanu, and that weren't too bad. And lucky enough, coming at half time, I was probably the most tired of everyone, sweating and just through nervous energy. And then come out second half, I think the score was 1-1. Got a corner, ball come in, and I managed to score. Looked through my mum and dad in the crowd, couldn't see him. And then they took kick off straight away, and we nicked the ball and went straight up and scored again. So it's 3-1. So I hadn't even had time to celebrate my goal, really. And I think we won in the end 3-2. But Terry Gibson, the forward, who played for Wimbledon at the time, when I scored, he went, "Well done, lad," like that, because he used to play for Tottenham. And he said, "But don't tell anyone I told you." So yeah, good memories.
So Courtney asked, was the header you scored to win away to West Ham 1-0 in 2004 the best moment of your Albion career?
Yeah, I think so, definitely. I always remember that game quite well because my dad's a West Ham fan, so he weren't too chuffed after the game. But yeah, I think the whole build-up for the game, we weren't expected to get much out of it. That season, we went to quite a few places where we were the underdogs, and we turned over quite a few teams, which was fairly amusing. Yeah, we got to the hotel pre-match meal. I always remember it because things that happened during and after the game, it coincided with, I think it was Tottenham went there, didn't they, and stayed at the hotel, and there was a lasagna gate where they got a bug. But on the way to the game, Danny Cullip complained of feeling quite ill and was physically sick on the change room floor when we got to the game. We think he wouldn't be able to play, but you know what Danny's like, no, I'm playing, and you know, outstanding in the game. After the game, I was sick the next day. I had a bug as well. So, you know, you think, well, is it coincidence that we stayed in the same hotel? But yeah, but going back to the game, I think I remember the first 10 minutes. It was like the Alamo. I think they hit the post. They done everything but score. Getting ridiculous, you know, scrambles, goalmouth scrambles in the box, and people diving in front of balls and blocking, and it was just. It was really funny, really, because when you're playing them sort of games and that thing that happens on the pitch, you can't help but let out quite a few little giggles, like nervous giggles. Just that's how you cope with it. You know, people be horrified if they see you laughing on the pitch when that sort of thing happens. But I can't explain it. It just you overcome with it because you just think, how did they not score? And then, well, I think it was a free kick. I think it was Chippy played it short to Charlie. I think he got it back. I always remember the ball coming in. I think it was Callum Davenport was marking me. And I always remember I've got a good run on him here. I've got like a couple of yards space where I could, if I get a good leap, I could use him as a bit of a lever here, a bit of a ladder. I always remember jumping above him and it hit on my head and going in. And just, I always remember all of a sudden, I watched it on YouTube a few times, obviously, but the crowd just erupting because it was right in front of the Brighton fans, and sort of running over to him. And it was, yeah, it was a great feeling. And then I think they brought on Bobby. I think they brought on Rebrov. I think they brought on X amount of players, and you just think, here we go. But fortunately, we held out for the win. And I always remember coming back in the change room afterwards, and we just sitting around, just giggling and laughing, thinking, how do we win that? And I always remember we'd done it at Sheffield United away. We'd done it, I think it was Leicester away. I think we had a good result against Watford. I think it was loads of games that season where we just come in after the game and you couldn't help but laugh. And it was such a good team to be around at the time because, as I said, we were the underdogs going into every game. And to survive that year, I think was, I think that was a great achievement. But I can't remember how many games to go. We were pretty comfortable, thinking we only need 3 points here to stay up, and we kept losing. I think it boiled down to the last game. We had to get a draw. And I think Fergus made a mistake against Ipswich, where they went through and scored, and you think to yourself, oh, please don't go down. And then thankfully he popped up the other end and managed to get the equaliser, which, even the feeling for that when you stay up is no great feeling. I had it once, another time when I was at Portsmouth. We had to beat, I think it was Huddersfield away, and we'd done it 1-0. Dion Burton scored, and I always remember there was about 5,000 Pompey fans run on the pitch after the game. It's just a great feeling. And another feeling was the semi-finals, Swindon, when we won under penalties, where I always remember that on the video with Mark McGhee ushering everyone off and just absolutely legging it, but the fans running on, and it's just great feeling.
Continuing talking about the Swindon game, Chris Field asked, is it true that you were due to take the 5th penalty in the playoffs versus Swindon?
See, I'm not sure, because there's a bit of argument about it. I was either the 5th penalty taker or I was the one that was going to be in the sudden death. And the reason why I say that is obviously a couple of seasons before, when I was at Gillingham, I missed a really important penalty at Wembley against Man City, which in the playoff final, which we lost, and that was my penalty, the deciding penalty. So I was sort of, even though I was on penalties that year and I scored most of them, I was reluctant. I sort of half-vowed never to take a penalty ever again. So my memory's serving me badly here, but I was either the 5th one, or I would have been definitely, looking back through the team, I definitely would have been the first one to go up in a sudden death, because an older pro always sticks their hand up. And the 5th one would have been between me or Charlie.